Would you agree that either these polls are right and we're completely wrong about America and the republic is over because people just think differently now, or there's something really wrong with these polls?
There's really no other conclusion you can draw because, Glenn, if you looked at every other metric by which you judge an elections environment other than the public polls, I mean, even look at something that would be kind of a secondary data point. The NBA is hemorrhaging viewers in the middle of its finals with one of its marquee franchises, its marquee team. And it's because even in its own, pardon the pun, bubble, it's just exhausting to be politically preached at with the wokeness message, even from what's probably the most liberal sports fan base in the country. You look at voter registrations, you look at early voting. I mean, by every other metric you would judge an election, the unemployment rate going down, the final report before the election. Every other metric you would judge an election, you would think that Trump is coasting to victory, except for the public polls. And so that's why I have been doing for weeks now a deep dive on their methodologies.
Okay, so tell me, because the one that everybody was freaking out about was Rasmussen, because when Rasmussen, their polls have always favored Donald Trump. To the point to where you look at it and you're like, I'm not sure. I want to see another poll, right?
Right, yeah.
This poll has him losing by what? 12? 12.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, I have to give them great credit. This is a great marketing scheme. It got me to subscribe to their platinum package. That's the only way I could look at their methodology. And I got to the very first point. And just to put that 12 points in perspective, that would be the worst a Democrat challenger has beaten a Republican incumbent president since FDR Hoover, 1932, almost 100 years. That would have Joe Biden outperforming FDR's final reelect in the fall of 1944 while he was winning World War II.
Oh my gosh.
So I looked at their first data point, and then I just stopped and wished I had not subscribed. They are projecting that Donald Trump is only going to win 76% of Republican votes. To put that in perspective, in the last 7 presidential elections, and I don't go back any further than that, because then you get into an era when Republicans could win California and Florida wasn't a toss-up. All right, so it's just not pertinent. If you go back in the last 7 presidential elections, the lowest percentage any GOP nominee has gotten of the Republican vote was George Herbert Walker Bush, only got 73% in 1992. But he had Ross Perot on the ticket, siphoning away votes from him. There is no such third-party candidate this time. Trump got 88% of the Republican vote 4 years ago, Glenn, and that's when guys like you and I with platforms were sitting out not supporting him. All right. I mean, the idea that if he only gets 76% of the Republican vote with the Democrats, the most left wing they've ever been, if that happens on Election Day, I'm coming back here on Tuesday the 4th. You name your stupid human trick. I'll do my best to perform it. That's not happening.
You have to eat Pat's underwear. You have to eat Pat's underwear. Okay?
Preferably pre-worn.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's a deal.
It's a deal.
All right. It's a deal.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Please. That's for the first moment I'm torn. Do I vote for Donald Trump or not? I mean, that's staggering. So how do they justify that?
I have no idea. And maybe that's why you've got to subscribe to some of their internals, is they don't want you to see how they came up with their math. If someone came to me, and as I've mentioned before on your show, and you have mentioned it, I've covered and worked on these campaigns. I worked on a presidential campaign last time. One of the things I did was analyze polling data and how we should strategize in response to it. If someone brought me a poll that showed that this president with the dude, he has almost a level of loyalty among Republicans that drives guys like you and I crazy, Glenn. Okay. And if they came to me and said he's only going to get 76% of registered Republicans, my response would be either you're fired or pay or refund me the cost of that poll. That's a ridiculous assumption, and that's a 12-point decline in where he was 4 years ago. And if you look at their top margin of their top line of results, it's a 12-point spread. It's pretty much all that data point right there.
Tell me about some of the other big polls. Because all the polls are saying this. NBC had him, 20 points behind?
Yeah, that's just not going to happen. Okay. But if you look at let me look at Monmouth, because when I was on the Cruz campaign, we took them seriously. We thought that they were a quality public pollster. They're rated A+ by 538. So they just put out a Pennsylvania poll that has Biden winning the state by 11. Now that would overperform what Obama did in that state in 2008. And Obama 2008 is the biggest Democratic presidential victory since LBJ 64. And they're saying that Biden's going to overperform that in a state that Trump just won. But if you look at the voter registration numbers, since 2016, Democrats have lost almost 42,000 voters in the state. Republicans have gained 160,000 voters in the state. To put that in perspective, Glenn, in the last election, Trump won the decisive 3 states by 78,000 combined total votes, which means Republicans have gained 150% more than that in Pennsylvania alone, and yet Trump's going to perform worse? That just doesn't make sense to me. I think NBC News is a scam.
Okay, so let me ask you this. This is because this would play into, but this is conspiracy stuff. This would play into the fact that they all will say, I guarantee you, if it's a landslide at night, they will all say the polls didn't show this. Something is radically wrong. There's been fraud somewhere.
There's no question. And then if they want to steal an election with mail-in voter fraud results, they can say, well, this just matches up with the polls. They can go the other way. Now, I don't believe Monmouth is in on that. I certainly think NBC News is. I mean, look at their news coverage. I think Monmouth is probably just doing a poll based on a 2016 voter file that doesn't reflect a net gain of 110,000 Republican voter registrations in the state. That's probably what's going on there. But for every Monmouth that might just not have the latest information to start a sample from, I mean, would it be a huge leap of logic for the people that gave us Russian collusion, Brett Kavanaugh, marauding rapists to just fake the polls?
It's a scary time. It's a really, truly scary time.